6, a ceasefire between Iran and Israel violated just hours after it went into effect. The warning President Donald Trump has for Israel this morning.
We want to step up for our communities. The mayor's position has been to retreat.
If their assumptions don't hold, they'll be responsible for the fallout.
Plus, a budget showdown at San Diego City Hall. What city council members ended up deciding on.
Leaving them in a country that they are not familiar with, it's really putting people's lives in danger.
Plus, what the Supreme Court is now allowing in the ongoing immigration crackdown.
You're watching CBS 8 Mornings at 6.
Thank you so much for being here on this Tuesday. It is 6 a.m. I'm Eric Connors.
And I'm Nada Iranpour. Glad you're joining us here. Let's check in on your forecast. Evan Narani telling us there's a warm-up coming.
A warm-up. Yeah, a ridge of high pressure that's going to start to build, helping to give us gradually warmer temperatures. Today, it's not as noticeable. It's still another mild day. Upper 60s along the coast, low 70s across our western valleys. We start to break into the upper 70s as we make our way out east, but that marine layer is still present across the coast and inland. But by the time we get to tomorrow afternoon, we'll really start to notice that warming trend on hand, and we'll have a lot more to say about how that heat is going to be interacting with us over the course of the weekend. Back to you.
Thank you, Evan. And right now, as we come on the air here, we have another update on the ongoing Israel-Iran war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office saying he held off on tougher strikes against Iran after speaking to President Donald Trump.
And just moments ago, President Trump said the Israel-Iran ceasefire was in effect after the deal was violated by both countries. Both Israel and Iran claim the other launched missiles well past the deadline to cease hostilities, but Iran denies it violated the ceasefire. Let's check in with CBS's Bradley Blackburn with the latest on this ongoing conflict.
Sirens and smoke trails over Israeli skies this morning after a deadly Iranian missile barrage. Iranian state TV signaled those may be the last of the country's strikes after President Donald Trump announced a, quote, complete and total ceasefire between the two nations on social media last night. At first, Israel's prime minister announced his country had approved the ceasefire deal, but then an about-face. Israel's defense minister has ordered new intense operations to attack Tehran and destroy targets of the regime and terror infrastructure after accusing Iran of violating the ceasefire. But an Iranian news agency said reports of a violation were false. The White House says President Trump discussed a deal directly with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, while other top administration officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, communicated with Iran. Iran's foreign minister initially seemed non-committal to the proposal, posting on X, "There is no agreement," and that a final decision on the cessation of our military operations will be made later, though he followed that up with claims that his country continued its aggression until the last minute, indicating a possible stop in strikes around 4 a.m. local time. Monday, Iran launched counterstrikes targeting a U.S. airbase in Qatar, retaliation for U.S. strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend. President Trump says Iran gave early notice in advance and that there were no deaths or injuries. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
Today, members of Congress are set to receive a classified briefing on the strikes against Iran and the current situation there. This comes as both senators and House representatives have proposed bipartisan resolutions meant to limit President Donald Trump's war powers. A measure from House Democrats would reportedly order President Trump to end U.S. involvement in Iran.
Stop the U.S. war machine!
Stop the U.S. war machine! Iranians.
Meanwhile, here in San Diego, dozens of demonstrators took to the streets to protest the Israel-Iran war and the U.S.'s involvement. They called for an end to this conflict and expressed skepticism over the possibility of a ceasefire. Meanwhile, dozens also protested in West Los Angeles yesterday, calling for a regime change in Iran. And here in San Diego, protesters criticized the bombings on Iran authorized over the weekend by President Donald Trump, calling it unconstitutional.
I don't agree with bombing other countries without congressional approval.
I think our biggest concern is making sure that the United States doesn't get dragged into another endless war at the cost of our Americans here.
President Donald Trump heads to the NATO summit today amidst the conflict.
Be sure to stay tuned for the latest developments on this conflict with Iran, both here on the air and on CBS 8 Plus. That's our streaming channel. Download on your TV and watch for free.
Later this afternoon, the County Board of Supervisors is set to adopt a final $8.6 billion budget proposal.
This after a budget showdown at San Diego City Hall last night when City Council was forced to decide on whether to override Mayor Gloria's vetoes. So we have team coverage on all these budget talks and decisions. CBS 8's Chris Groh will tell us about the outcome at the city level. But first, CBS 8's Regina Yurita live outside the county admin building to tell us about the county's proposed budget plan.
That's right. Good morning, guys. And we know that the County Board of Supervisors will hold deliberations for this proposed budget, but they are supposed to adopt the budget for next fiscal year after those sessions. And as you mentioned, it is an $8.6 billion budget. That is 1% compared to last year's fiscal year. However, there are some proposed cuts that could impact county worker pay and an adult housing program. This comes from uncertainties about slowing tax revenues, rising costs, the economy, and state and federal funding that have played a key role in some of the ultimate decisions. The plan does, however, focus on investing in housing, homeless solutions, and behavioral health. There's also funding for safety net programs, public health, and public safety. They've also included environmental sustainability and infrastructure. Now, on June 3rd, they announced the proposed budget to the public. The public had the opportunity for public comment to decide on some of those decisions. But back out here, the recommended budget also protects current hours and locations at parks and libraries. Now, in terms of when this budget will take effect, that is starting on July 1st. Eric Ganetta, I'll send it back to you.
And meanwhile, in the city of San Diego, the council was forced to decide on whether to override Mayor Gloria's vetoes or not.
CBS 8's Chris Groh live in studio this morning with the outcome. Chris, good morning.
Yeah, so this is how the process can work and sort of get to that compromise. There can be line item vetoes by the mayor and the city council can override them. Now, the council previously made restorations to some cuts in Mayor Gloria's budget. The mayor then vetoed them. But then last night, the council made a vote to partially override some of those vetoes.
The council's been extremely unified with the approach that we want to take. We want to step up for our communities. The mayor's position has been to retreat.
And that's Council Member Sean Elo Rivera there speaking before the meeting. And it said that new revenue that the city council and it's new revenue, I should say, that the city council and mayor have a disagreement about. The mayor believes that the city council is relying too heavily on it to restore some of these cuts. Regardless, the council feels that they are confident in it, and we did get that 6-3 vote to override all but 6 of the mayor's line item vetoes and reductions. The passed motion restored funding for the city's Lakes Brush Management Program and put the city's Office of Race and Equity under the purview of the city's independent budget analyst. With the vote, the $6 billion budget passes. Mayor Gloria issued a strong warning after the passage, and according to the mayor, if the city's new revenue sources don't come to fruition or are smaller than anticipated, the city would have to issue mid-year budget cuts and/or access rainy day funds.
While the council has now chosen to partially override certain vetoes, I remain concerned that these actions could still weaken our ability to stay on stable financial footing.
Now, it should be noted there was a motion to fully override the mayor's vetoes, but that was defeated 5-4. We did hear from Councilwoman Jen Campbell, who urged the council to pass the mayor's budget as is and warned of legal ramifications for passing an unbalanced budget. That didn't happen. The city's independent budget analyst also expressed some skepticism about the revenue sources and whether or not this will stay balanced. Netta?
All right, Chris, thank you for the details there. Today, the San Diego City Council is holding their second public hearing on the new trash fee. This after the City Council approved the fee earlier this month. The city will now charge homeowners up to nearly $50 a month to pick up their trash and their recycling. The fee is expected to take effect in July, so yeah, just in a week and a half or so. The city is also considering adopting an ordinance today that would regulate what landlords charge their tenants for city-provided utilities. Tenants would have the right to then request an itemized list of those utility charges.
This morning, UC San Diego Health has laid off roughly 230 healthcare workers at its clinics and hospitals. UCSD Health says the layoffs were in response to financial pressure brought on by rising costs and federal funding cuts. The union representing some of those workers says pharmacists, lab scientists, and social workers were among those let go. They also say the system is already dealing with a staffing crisis, and these layoffs could seriously affect patient care.
The time right now is 6:10, and as people are waking up, hey, June gloom in full effect.
June gloom, yes, out along the coast and inland, but by the time we get to this upcoming weekend, it should be a lot less impactful for us as a ridge of high pressure starts to build. We're expecting a more shallow marine layer in the days to come as that ridge starts to build. So that was your live look outside at overcast skies along the coast and inland. Take a look at where your high temperatures are expected to go this afternoon. We are still very mild compared to other parts of the country. You might have heard about the eastern half of the U.S. yesterday breaking into the triple digits, close to 110 degrees, breaking records set back in the 1800s. It is a wild scene with that ridge of high pressure just sitting over the eastern seaboard. Now, what we're going to be watching for this afternoon here in Southern California is a trough of low pressure exiting to the north. So we're going to be seeing our temperatures gradually warm, but today's not exactly the day where that really kicks into high gear quite yet. Palm Springs, however, will still make it to 101. Downtown San Diego, upper 60s, maybe hitting 70 degrees. Vegas, 96. We've got Flagstaff at 78 and Phoenix at 103. So just goes to show that we're a hair warmer this afternoon than we were yesterday, but it's really going to be more noticeable for the many days to come. That 69-degree high temperature downtown will start to cool as the afternoon and evening progress. By 6:40 p.m., first pitch out there at Petco Park should be at 65 degrees under scattered clouds, just some light 5 to 10 mile per hour winds, so not too impactful out there. Sunrise was at 5:42, but most of us are under this layer of clouds, which means it's a gray start out there. Sunset not coming until 8 p.m. As that ridge of high pressure starts to build, those temperatures will climb, and there's that climb in temperatures inland that takes us to about the mid-80s on your afternoon highs by Friday and Saturday. Let's check in on what things are doing on the roads. So I want to take you to where we're seeing some delays on the 805 northbound. Last time we checked in, CHP told us that there was a brush fire that was blocking two of the northbound lanes of the 805 northbound, number 4 and 5 lane at University this morning. Now, I want to show you how you can see that those northbound lanes are impacted, but we also have a live look outside. This is what we see on the northbound 805 just south of University, where you can see very clearly that all of those lanes are impacted by that backup. So CHP again on scene right now. We'll keep you up to date when we see it cleared. Let's check in on your border wait times this morning, where as we kick off the day, San Ysidro Port of Entry is at about a 40-minute wait. Otay Mesa Port of Entry should take you longer to get across, about an extra 30, 35 minutes or so. Going to take you 75 minutes in total.